French bistros are basically defined by the idea that they make large batches of stews that can be kept for days and reheated when ordered. Coq au vin is a classic French dish with many different regional variations, although the Parisian variety is the one that most people are familiar with. There are many different ways of preparing this classic, and this is one of my favorites. As a bonus, it can be made from start to finish in less than 24 hours, and it reheats extremely well, making it an ideal bistro dish. Not only do you want to use a very large chicken for this, 4 to 5 pounds, about 2 kilograms, but you also want one in excellent condition. In this case, we have chickens that actually have a serial number on them. They can be traced back to the farm. They have the address and the phone number of the farm that they came from. Whole chickens are always the best because they've had the least amount of handling and they're the freshest. Learn to cut up whole chickens. It's one of the easiest butchery tasks you can have. It is a snap. And just a few minutes later you get 10 pieces. I cut the breasts in half, made sure that I left a little piece of skin on each and every piece. I've separated the drumsticks from the thighs, and I've got the wings. I cut the tips off. All of these extra parts in the back and everything all goes into a tub to make stock from later. So now we've got this, now we can start making the coating. So we're going to grind the spices. I've got one small bay leaf. It's a dried bay leaf. It's going to go in about 3/4 of a teaspoon of dried rosemary, 2 whole teaspoons of 4 mixed whole peppercorns, and a teaspoon of chervil, dried chervil, of course. So first we're going to grind this up. Then, once it's ground sufficiently, put it in there with about a teaspoon of salt. Okay, teaspoon and a half, a little bit generous. This is a lot of chicken. This is the only salt it's going to get until the end, so I don't have to worry about it too much. And then flour. And we're going to mix this together to make it homogeneous. Then you get a big bowl like this, stack all the chicken in it so that the skin side is up, and we're going to distribute this seasoned flour mix evenly over the top of the whole thing. Then put a plate or some other cover over it. Get shakes. And there we go. Now, when we're actually cooking this, we'll shake it off a little bit as need be in order to further even up the coating. I have 200 grams of ordinary bacon rashers that I'm going to cut up like this. Now, some of the older recipes, and I'm sure traditionally, this would have been made with slab bacon that was cut into cubes. The problem with that is it gives a very strong taste. It's really too strong, at least with the remainder of this recipe. Perhaps if you were careless and you were boiling your sauces away, maybe that would kill off some of the excessive smokiness, but we're going to treat this like a professional French sauce, and the result will be superb. But don't use slab bacon in this. Sometimes it has a purpose. This isn't one of those times. Use just regular strips. And you put the bacon in boiling water. This is one of those things that it was like everybody knew to do this 30, 40 years ago. Now it seems to be largely a forgotten lesson in cooking. Boil the bacon before you fry it. You'll get much better results. The texture will be better, the browning will be more even, and you will not have any of those nasty black bits that you get on bacon so easily when you don't boil it first. And when the time is up, scoop it out and drain it on paper towels. Then you're going to begin heating this over medium heat on a skillet to render down the bacon's fat, and also to cook it, of course. This is going to take a while. This is probably, use a splatter guard if you have one. There's going to be a lot of hissing and popping in the process of this. Sometimes bacon will actually fly directly out of the pan. You get shots of grease in your eyes. It won't be a good thing, so keep it under cover, not to mention the amount of grease you'll get on the floor at the end of it. And one of the things you'll have time for while this bacon is rendering is to peel the garlic, cut off the bitter ends. This is 30 grams, about an ounce of garlic, and 100 grams of shallots. Following the rule for braising, long braise times, large pieces. The garlic will not be cut up at all. This is also a common idea in Italy because they like the idea when they're going through a dish that they're going to be able to remove whole cloves of garlic and not eat it. The shallots, I'm only going to cut up this big. These will largely melt into the dish, but they won't become completely invisible, and that's what you want. You still want to be able to see them. And after it's like this, nice and crispy, fat's been rendered, scoop it out to a container. We're going to save this, cover it and save it the next day in the refrigerator. Okay, I've got this bacon grease there. I've increased the heat to 7 on 1 to 10, and now it's actually starting to smoke. So I'm putting the pieces of chicken that were seasoned skin side down into the fat here, and we're going to give them some good browning. I'm not going to crowd the pan. I'm going to do it in 2 batches. The chicken pieces first skin side down in the bacon fat, and again, another opportunity to use the guard here, because this is also going to splatter quite a bit. And of course, turn the pieces over during the cooking process. And this is one of the critical stages of this recipe, and one of the things that often distinguishes restaurant cooking from home cooking. We put the effort in to brown the meat well. Poorly browned meat in a braise means that the flavors will never be fully developed. You'll never have that magical, intangible quality. And that goes double for meats that are going to be cooked in bacon grease like this. These need to be cooked really well. And gradually you work your way through all of the chicken that was in the bowl. By the way, here's the bowl that the seasoning was in. You notice there's almost none of the seasoning left. All of it went onto the chicken. This is important. When you start to get low on the chicken, when there's only a couple pieces left, if you see there's clumps of seasoning in here, scrape the chicken around and pick it up. You want all of the seasoning to go into it. When you finally got the last of the chicken pieces nicely browned, you transfer these over to a plate. Now, I'm going to put that shallot and garlic in here for a minute. Get this going just a little bit. I just want to show you what this chicken should look like. Nicely browned on all sides. And as soon as you've used the vegetables here to scrape up the last of the grease and you've got some color on them, now you can add the wine, red wine. But I'm turning off the heat now. We just want to cook this enough to get rid of the extra alcohol. We're not trying to evaporate this or concentrate this right now. We just want to get rid of the extra alcohol off of the top. Let it sit here with no heat on it, just still on the same hob, until the boiling subsides and the steam reduces down to where it's just even. While this is going on, we're going to begin packing our braising dish. And it's important you make sure that the breast pieces are at the bottom, because these will be the most prone to drying out, and they need the most liquid. The other pieces will actually release some fat and keep the the breast pieces from drying out. So this is how we're going to take care of it kind of automatically here, just by making sure that the breast pieces are on the bottom and all the other more moist pieces go over the top. The wings, thighs, and drumsticks and all this. These are going to go over the top. And of course, we're not going to throw away the juices that are here. We're going to put those in too. Now, we've got the chicken in the pan. We're going to pour this wine that was cooked briefly with the shallots and the garlic over the chicken. This is our braising liquid. And the shallots and garlic here, these are going to be reserved along with the bacon in the refrigerator until the next day. Next, on top of here, we're going to be quite generous, but quite a few sprigs of fresh thyme on here. We'll peel this off later, and don't worry that there's only liquid at the bottom. The steam, as it braises, will come through. Now we can begin cooking the mushrooms. Mushrooms here. Add 2 tablespoons of flour. Now, normally this would not be a good thing. You might think, oh my god, it's going to taste like flour. Because of the long cooking time, it won't. It will be just fine. You're going to add some homemade chicken stock here, the remainder of the red wine, and we have this braising liquid that came off of the chicken that was cooked. We're using the fat separating pitcher so that I can add the aqueous phase of this, as it would be called. And I'm going to leave behind you. You can dump the whole thing in if you want to. It makes the dish greasier. In olden times, as it would be said, they would put the oil in too. I'm trying to make this a little bit more modern, a little bit lower in calories, and then begin cooking this. Although these mushrooms are sticking up above the surface right now, as this begins cooking, the mushrooms will soften and the whole thing will become homogeneous, as you'll see in just a minute here. Here's what it looks like after 10 minutes. Just check the temperature here. Good. Between 70 and 80 degrees. Just let this continue simmering. After 20 minutes, this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to add those shallots and garlic that were cooked in the chicken fat and the red wine last night. We're going to continue reducing this for quite a while. Okay, it's been another 20 to 30 minutes. You'll notice this is thickened up quite a bit now. Now I'm going to add the bacon that was cooked yesterday, as well as I'm going to stir this in first, and then now as the final step, we got a few sprigs of thyme that I've tied up with a string so that they'll be easier to retrieve, and I'm just going to lay that on top as it cooks at a very, very low temperature now. Reduce the heat down to 2, 1.5, 2, something like that. I'm just going to let it steep like this for maybe 15 minutes, something like that. Then we'll combine everything. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.